Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share another scrapbook process video with you. Today I am sharing the latest episode of the Challenge Me, Challenge You series that I am doing with my dear friend Gwen Wruck, and this month we are playing with circles and stamping. Now Gwen chose circles for me and I chose stamping for Gwen, and now both of us have to use the same criteria to come up with some sort of layout. Now, I'm not going to lie, when Gwen said I was going to be working with circles, I wasn't overly thrilled because I do find working with, a lot of circular things to be a bit of a challenge, but that's what this series is all about, right? And Gwen will probably tell you the same thing. When I said, Gwen, you're going to be stamping, she wasn't overly impressed either. But let's see how both of us go using circles and stamping. So I've pulled out a few things here to give you a look what I'm playing with this month. I've pulled out some Vicki Boutin colour study collection, and I decided to start with that large colour wheel paper because it's a circle. And what better place to start? Now, straight away I went off the rails, okay? I'm going to confess straight up, because I didn't want all of the colours that are shown on that colour wheel. I actually only wanted those sort of warm tones there, the pink, the red, and the purples, and the blues at the bottom. And I was working with a photo that I took of my daughter, and I didn't need any orange, yellow, green, none of those things were going to go. So, as you can see, I am creating a mixed media layout. Now, given that I just chopped that colour wheel in half, I knew I needed to put something on the other half of my cardstock, and I really wanted to bring in a bit of darkness to this page. So I chose my trusty Payne's Grey paint and my trusty brayer, and I just rolled some of the paint onto the left-hand side of the page and then a tiny little smidgen on the right-hand side there, because I knew it was going to peek out from underneath the edge of that colour wheel, or the half colour wheel. So forgive me, Gwen, but I did start with a circle. I just used the circle in my own way. Okay, so what else am I working with? I also have this bold patterned paper, which is also from Vicki Boutin's colour study collection. Pretty much everything that you are going to see me use today, well, probably 90% of it is from the Vicki Boutin colour study collection. And there are a couple of other bits and pieces that I will let you know what they are when I get to them. Okay. So we've got a couple of really bold pattern papers, and that's one of the things that I really love about Vicki's collection is they are bright, they are bold, and they are a lot of fun. So I had decided to use that bold pattern with the pencils on it to cover up the the line where I had cut that colour wheel in half, because I did not want any of the green or the orange or any of the other colours showing through. And I really needed to place something on the edge of that colour wheel to also give it a full stop. Now, I looked for something that had a vertical pattern like those pencils, because I really wanted to break up the circularness of the circle. I really wanted to break up that roundness, and I really wanted to get some hard vertical line happening because of the orientation of my photo was a portrait style photo. So my portrait style photo obviously was up and down. You can see when you look at my photo that my daughter, the subject, is also up and down, and there are also the lines of the brickwork in the photo that are up and down, and I really needed to draw all of those elements into my background somewhere and just make them work. If I had have just stuck them on a circle, it might have been a bit disjointed, so I decided to put a few strips of patterned paper behind it. You can see, as I said, I've got that bold pattern with the pencils on it. I've also got a couple of other strips that I cut from one of Vicki's cut apart sheets. So you can see that little stripy strip, and there's also that purple strip that's got a label on it. And I just overlapped those on the edge of that colour wheel, or the half colour wheel, just to anchor the spot where I was going to place my photo. Now, you're going to have to bear with me today because this is, it's not a hugely long video. It's a little bit longer though, and you'll see why, because of the amount of layers that go into this page. So I wanted to get my other criteria ticked off nice and early, which was my criteria of stamping. So I have a really It's not a huge, okay, it's pretty big. All right, it's pretty, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty big. It's not massive. I'm sure there are people out there with much bigger stamp collections than me. But the truth of the matter is, although the fact that I have all of these stamps, I really don't utilise them enough. So this challenge of stamping to Gwen was as much a challenge to myself to dust some of those stamps off and get them used on some pages. So I did grab the Vicki Boutin Colour Study stamp set, and I chose, wanting to double up on my criteria here, I chose some circular stamps from the stamp set. Now, you're going to see how many times I tie circles into this page. It may not directly be something that is a circle, but you can bet there are going to be lots of dots and circular patterns and circular items you'll see. So far I've got my half colour wheel. I've got some stamping, which are those small colour wheel stamps from Vicki Boutin's collection there. I have used some spotted tissue paper in behind my photo. The paper that I have matted my photo with also has a circular print on it. I am using a round doily, and you'll see how I pull in the circular theme through a number of other elements as well. So I am stacking up the pieces that I'm going to use as the layers under my photo. Like I said, this is quite a layered page, and I am just stapling them together in a stack, which allows me to move it around on and off the page easily. Now, I haven't adhered it to the background yet because I am working with some of the other elements still, and I'm trying to work out where my page is going to balance, if I'm going to stamp other things, and I don't like to stick things down too early while I'm still working with layers. Okay, so there's another other thing that I am working with there. And because I'm working with the Colour Study collection, I've got all these bright things, and I wanted to use some eclectic style things in my layers under this photo. The tissue paper I'm working with there was just a torn little scrap I happen to have. And the doily, I've got the pattern paper. But the other thing that I've tucked in there, you'll see that blue item there, it is actually a paint sample card from my local hardware store. I wanted to pull in some more of the blues, and I thought, given that the title of this page was going to be Create Yourself, that the theme of using those paints, that paint sample card, would work quite well. And it also helped tie in with those blues and in the colour wheel there. Okay. All right, so getting all of my layers down on the page now for my photo mat. And you'll notice that there are lots of staples in those layers at this point. And you know what? It doesn't matter because you're not going to see any of them. Now, the next layer that I'm adding in behind my photo, you will see, is some frayed gauze. I use this on most of my pages to add texture. I love the textural element it adds to a page. I just cut it up, fray it with my fingers, and generally I'll just use a staple, there I go, just to adhere it down on the page before I end up sticking my photo down with some liquid adhesive. Okay, where are we up to? Okay, so the next thing I am going in with is actually another stamp. So it is also from that same Vicki Boutin set. I am using a Distress Oxides to stamp this one down. So I use that little heart. It's not perfectly round. It's sort of a little bit of a wonky circle, but I gave myself a creative pass on that one and thought, yep, that counts as a circle. So the colour I am using on this one, it's a purple. It's called Villianous Potion. I think I do actually remember to show that to camera at some point. So I stamped a few of those little circles with the hearts in the centre of them. And then I went back to the Vicki Boutin stamp set, and the other one I pulled out was that little stamp that's got all those little dots on it, spots. Again, another circular shape. And I am stamping with another Distress Oxide there, and that one is Picked Raspberry. So I just scattered some of that pattern over the top of the acrylic paint on the left side. I scattered it down into that sort of white space in the bottom right corner, and I just laid it over the pattern paper on the right-hand side there. So you will see when I stamp with this, you can see I've also stamped over that paint sample card as well. So when I stamp like that, I like to try and stamp over different layers at the same time, because it helps meld your background with your foreground. The same as if you have watched any of my previous videos when I splatter. When I splatter at the end, although I didn't actually do it on this page because there was enough going on, but you'll see in other videos when I splatter on the page, you know, when I remember to cover up the photo. But I try and splatter over some of those paper layers as well, just to try and tie those background layers in with the foreground layers. I don't want to just splatter on my background. I want to splatter some of the elements on the page as well, and it just helps bring everything together. So I'm using that same theory with my stamping here. So you'll see that my stamping goes off the edge. I've stamped on the pattern paper. You can see how it goes off the edge there, and it's also going onto the cardstock background, and that's helping to tie those two elements together. And then you can see I've layered over it with yet another stamp. I'm particularly looking at that area near the top of the page there where the circles are. And you can see that I have layered a stamp on a stamp, which is on pattern paper, and then it stamps over across onto the cardstock. And you'll see how that gives your page depth, because you can see through one layer to the next layer to the next layer. And that's what mixed media is all about. It's all about layering. Now, a lot of the times when you add a layer, you're going to cover up a lot of the previous layer. And so long as you're leaving a little bit of it visible and then adding another layer, that's how it works. The other thing you might notice when you do a mixed media page is a lot of the time your page will go through what we like to call the ugly stage. This is the point where, particularly if you haven't done a lot of mixed media yourself, you're going to look at your page. This is a point where you're going to feel really frustrated and you're going to think, my page looks yuck. I'm ready to give up. Please, please don't give up. Just push through. Add another layer, add something else onto the page. Walk away if you need to, but understand that this happens to everyone. Your page is going to go through an ugly stage before it all sort of comes together in the end. So trust me, and trust yourself, trust the process, and just push through it. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. I'm going to go back to the page. So I have added on my title there. I've added on that little cute little paint tube there, which I just sort of used to underline the title. Now, to the left of my photo there, I have a handmade embellishment. Now, that little heart there is from Charms Creations. It's made from layers of felt and tulle, and it's got stitching in it, and they're super cute. And I always like to layer them with flare buttons. Again, another circular element. Tick. I think I'm ticking this circle thing off, I can tell you. So I've got a flare button on the left there that says today, and then I've got one on the right-hand side of the page that says every day. They were both from Cocoa Vanilla Studio. They were limited edition ones, and you know what? They've been in my stash buried for so long that they weren't even really sticky anymore, but I just used some liquid adhesive and on they went, and I'm really happy with how they came out there. So I am looking now for yet more circular elements to add onto the page. I've gone into the Colour Study little sticker book there. I found some little circular stickers, little sort of pie chart stickers, which I've scattered a few around the page. And then while I was in the sticker book, I found those little phrase stickers that I decided to add on just to add some extra text and some extra visual interest to the page. Now, one thing I didn't actually discuss yet is you can see that I have used two photos on this. They're actually exactly the same photo, and I didn't really plan to put two of the same photo on this, except I accidentally printed it twice. So I decided to cut one into a circle, focus in on the focal point of the page, which was my daughter's face, and I've just layered it down the bottom there, and I've got her looking down into the title. So she's looking down upon herself, looking down upon the title. As I said, that I didn't do that as any kind of meaningful, creative reason. I just happened to have two of the same photo and figured, oh, well, why not? Let's try this. A lot of my things happen like that. They're just happy accidents. That's why you will notice when I put my pages together, sometimes it can look quite scattered and random. My process can look quite scattered and random, and that's because none of it is planned, and I just fly by the seat of my pants, and whatever happens, happens, and what you see is what you get. Okay, so I am finishing off this page with lots and lots of small circular elements. I pulled out some mainly used sheets of enamel dots that I had. Admittedly, I had lots of big ones left because really, who likes the big ones? So I'm trying to use up some of those big ones on this page. I used a couple of different colours. I also then pull in a bag of sequins that I found in the same spot in my stash as these enamel dots, and I figured why not throw some of those on too. So right now you're just going to looking at me finishing off as I stick all these little pretties onto my page. Now I am dying to see what Gwen has done with circles and stamping this month, and I'm hoping that she will be quite happy with how I met her circle challenge. I'm pretty happy with how this page came out, even if I did start off by cheating and cutting that large circle in half. As you can see, there are plenty of other circles on the page. Now, I'm going to put the link to Gwen's video down below, so as soon as you finish watching here, you can go down and see what she did with the exact same criteria. I love this challenge. It is one of my favourite things to do every month because Gwen and I have very different styles, and I love seeing the two different results we get from using the same criteria. So pop over and watch Gwen's videos now, and I will see you back on my channel soon with another video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.